black families, white families, green, purple families are concerned, and that's why the overarching thing about, do you care about other people's children as much as you care about your own, and how do you make sure that other people's kids get a good education? I think that opportunity exists. We have to get everybody into the room together and have that conversation about what we expect from the Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools for our kids and for other people's kids. And I think if we can have a community conversation, not a sidebar conversation where we got a task force here, we got a grade over here, we got a east side, west side, south side. We have to have a continual communications with people in this town, in this county, about what we expect, what the standards are, what we're doing to achieve those standards. We cannot, say we're making great progress this year, and 2 years from now say, oh, well, we're down, 20 points, we got to go back up. We have to be talking to parents on a regular basis about what the expectations are, what the challenges are, and wear it on your sleeve. Where do you think we ought to be next year or 2 years from now? And say, here's where we should be. Okay? Here's where your challenge should be. And then work like hell to make that happen. You begin the conversation by getting people's attention. There are some normal ways of getting folks' attention, and that is just continually putting the word out into the various channels, the newspapers, the community meetings, etc. You can do some unique ways of getting people's attention. Things that are unorthodox. You can do some really unorthodox things to get people's attention. You can demonstrate. You can go down the street naked. There are all kinds of things I think you can do to draw folks' attention. Something as stupid as the gingham dance. It's picked up over 800 million hits on YouTube. You can use social media. There are various things that you can do to draw folks' attention to the issue of having the kind of dialogue that we should have in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools. I don't know what you want me to say on that. You want me to tell all the different strategies? The task forces aren't going to do that. I don't think task forces will do that. I think task forces live and they die. There has to be a way of sustaining this, and you sustain that through community resources. If every Sunday, if every church in Mecklenburg County, if half the churches in Mecklenburg County devoted one Sunday a month on education, okay, it could be one way of doing that. The other way, usually the most negative things get in the paper. If a community group does something that's sort of against the grain, I think, downtown or at a meeting or something, you get in the newspaper for a month or two. But to sustain that, you'd have to have the resources, and institutions would have to be involved. Some of your traditional institutions, your neighborhood organizations that have been around for a while, your churches would have to be engaged, your organizations that, like your Rotaries, things that have roots in the community will have to make sure that these things are continuously heard, voiced, and that will take an enormous amount of work and resources. The short circuit that, I was kidding about going naked, but certainly there are some strategies that you can do to get folks' initial attention, but the hard work, the blocking and tackling, would have to be done with normal local community organizations. The civil rights stuff started in churches. A lot of your political organizations started around churches and various organizations. You'd look to those familiar organizations in the community to join hands to start the dialogue and to continue the dialogue. I mean, that's kind of hard, but what would you do? You could shake up things and do something crazy to get people talking, but then your question was, how do you sustain that over time? And you'd have to make sure that people saw their interest, and you'd have to be smart about it. I mean, you have to show that other people's children being treated differently than your children had some impact on you. And so you have to really demonstrate that in such a way that you didn't feel it sort of philosophically or theoretical, but you felt it in a very practical way in terms of what's happening to your future. And you keep sharing that information. You know, the civil rights, there were boycotts, there were street demonstrations, there were various strategies. I mean, and those certainly can be used today to get folks' attention, and certainly, you know, it's something that certainly I don't have any problem with using any strategies, because I'm getting desperate right now. I'm getting desperate because it seems like we're looking the other way, and this great institution we call public education, for me, is sort of being turned on its head to a degree that we may no longer have public education, where all kids pledge allegiance to the flag, you know, for devotion in the morning, etc., and having multiple pockets of education. We started off this way with church schools, night schools, slave schools. And, I mean, we started off with all of this, and we said, well, wait a minute now. We don't have a qualitative way of making sure that kids got the same level or a basic level of educational opportunities that would help them be a good citizen in this democracy. And so we started saying, let's have some standards. It seems like we're starting to go backwards to say it's okay to be over here and you do what you want to do. It's okay for you to be over here and do what you want to do. And I remember having a debate with one of my colleagues on the school board, Linda Lane Cacadalis, years ago, when this notion of charter schools, and I said, well, what are you going to do when Minister Farrakhan creates this chain of schools? Are you going to be supportive of that with your tax money? And she said, So, I mean, you know, let's think about having one strong public school system, because that's where the majority of your kids will be, is in this one big system. I don't think these other strategies and modalities out there are going to carry the water, because they didn't carry the water in the very beginning, and I don't see where those other strategies out there are going to be able to carry the water in the future unless we intend not to have a strong public school system.